The harsh reality of owning a skate brand in 2025. The year is currently 2024, but the YouTube game is you post 2025 at the end of 2024. So I really like Keen Ramps and Corey. He actually does pretty good on YouTube. I feel like he is a company, like a small business in skateboarding that is utilizing social media well. I always see his shit on Instagram and stuff. I think Dale Decker runs it or whatever. And his YouTube videos do pretty good considering he's predominantly making ramps and but he makes a lot of good content. Look at this, 37K, 100K. But yeah, he's cool. He let me stay at his Airbnb. He let me skate his desert ranch before. So shout out to him. Let's see the harsh reality of it.
Headquarters. Dale and I'm gonna be completely honest. We really didn't have a concept today. We had one idea, but I'm super pressed for time. It's like the midst of holiday rush. We have all these Christmas orders coming in. Meshed with that, a Nike job just kind of fell in our lap. Super thankful for that. But it's a little chaotic. I'm also supposed to do a trip to Texas to visit my brother-in-law, and then meshed with that, it's just like holidays are just hectic. Everybody's getting sick all the time. I've had this lingering respiratory thing. Long story short, I just kind of want to give a status on what's going on. I am genuinely curious. You're an insider in the skate industry. You own and operate a skateboard company.
Yeah, this looks like a good informational video.
It's kind of you see a lot of rhetoric floating around between
rhetoric
between slap message board.
Why do I find that so funny? I feel like no skater has ever said rhetoric ever. Oh man, why do I find that funny?
Skaters and YouTubers about the skate industry dying. You've even had P-Rod address on a podcast with Mikey Taylor about getting some flack for the way that they do business with licensing deals with companies. Yeah. And he talks about why he does stuff like that so he can support the people that work at his business. I'm personally, and I think a lot of other people are curious about what are the realities of owning and operating a skateboard company, let alone a skateboard ramp company in the year 2024. With what are the realities of owning and operating a skateboard company in 2024 with the current economic state of hyperinflation and now there's all this talk about what these tariffs are going to do to mom and pop businesses. Skateboarding itself is its own micro niche and micro economy that is in a interesting place right now. It's in a dark place. To sum it up, the skateboard industry is sort of in a dark place right now. Historically, it goes in these ebbs and flows of credibility establishment too, by the way. You've been skating for what, 25, 30 years? I have been skateboarding for almost 30 years. And you've been in business for 12? Been in business 13. Okay, so who's counting? Well, yeah, but the reason I'm saying that is because a kid who is 15 is gonna come into skating and he's gonna be like, oh my god, skating's the best thing ever, because he sees his pros, he sees where skating's at, yeah. He has his whatever influencers he looks up to, so to him it's prospering, and there's just a window of time that you pay attention. Most people, right. I remember I started at 9 or 10 years old, and then the first 2 years I'm kind of just figuring it out. I'm figuring out where do I get a real deck, and where's the skate shop, and where do people skate, what kind of tricks do I learn. And then it was I had that window of, let's call it 12 to 17, where I was just skateboarding is my life and everything. Yeah. And that was the era of Flip, Sorry, Baker 3. Yeah, Baker 3, Trans World Sight Unseen, Heath Chart, Skating to Nights in White Satin. That was my era. And it left this impact on me where I'm okay, I want to be surrounded by skateboarding the rest of my life. Yeah. But so that's always happening. And you capture these kids in this 4 to 6 year window of where they're really, really into skateboarding. Yeah. And then most of them are going to get a girlfriend, get a car, go to college, lose interest. And so it's we'll be up and then we go down and we got to find the new crop. Yeah. And then a new crop of brands will grow. Dale and I were talking earlier about Lakai. Lakai had the fully flared era.
Dude, it's crazy to see what...
I would say Lakai had the biggest video of all time. Yeah, I think it is, for sure. I think I would say Lakai Fully Flared was the biggest skate video production ever. Like the highest budget, could we say? Maybe. I think it probably would have been. Most anticipated, highest budget, biggest lineup, most hyped, most overhyped, and lived up to the hype video ever. And that company can't even survive. Why? What happened? You know, like all those writers quit straight away, I'm pretty sure. Like, I'm pretty sure it dropped. Then pretty much soon after, all of them started quitting. Like, when did Costin quit Lakai? Basically straight after. So, yeah, and like, let's think about Lakai for a second. Costin quits the shoe company. Mike Mo has super traumatic injury, can't really skate ever again, sort of, but can skate again, kind of now, but never be the same again. Brandon Biebel becomes fitness influencer, turns his back on skating, deletes all his Instagram posts about skating. Who else? Then, like, a lot of the other dudes were kind of older, on the older side, not really doing a whole lot. Yeah, it was definitely interesting.
That video, like, it's a fucking meme, dude. Like, I can see, I don't know if it's been made or not already, but like, if you think about it, it's like we went from like fully flared, like probably the peak of skateboarding in like our era, like the peak of like hype. That video got pushed back a year and a half to now it's like
Spike Jones directed it, dude. Explosives, permits.
Yeah, and now it's like, oh, we're still a company, but we don't have a team for you to support. We're not giving you any real reason to support us, but no one you care about is
Yeah, it's
anymore.
so sad.
They did say they're gonna support grassroots efforts or something. They said something.
Yeah, that's just like probably jargon rhetoric to try to keep
Rhetoric.
You know, they're playing ball.
Coming back full circle, skateboarding does these ebbs and flows, right? And there's waves that you can ride. So you might be a brand that's really popular. You can't ride that forever. Yes, there's some exceptions of like legacy brands like a Baker. I don't think Baker's ever gonna go away.
Yeah.
They have done a very tasteful and a very tremendous job of like branding themselves and carving out their space in skateboarding. I don't think we're ever going to see them go away. Footwear, right? Like we had our America era of like, this is skateboarding and stay gold.
Yeah.
We had our Lakai
They were the
era.
Baker of footwear.
We're getting to a point now, I don't know, blame it on globalism, if you will, but we might not see any more brands like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like, it might just whittle down to there's Nike, there's Adidas, there's New Balance, and then maybe like Asics or like a Reebok.
That would be so awful. And like, he didn't mention Vans. Come on, can we get a Vans mention in there? But if it's literally only Nike and Adidas, that means two corporate dudes, the head of Nike Skate and the head of Adidas Skate marketing. One day they can say, you know what? Let's get out of skating. Let's don't worry about it and just turn it off. Then there's no shoes for anyone. Like, that literally could happen. Nike's notoriously done that in a lot of different sports. None of these companies are too big to fail. Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with what they said about Baker. I feel like Baker in the modern era is less powerful than it used to be. You know, piss drunks and all that stuff. I feel like piss drunks is not quite, I don't know, not quite what it once was.
Or somebody will like make their way in. We're gonna see the little brands like the Last Resorts and stuff pop up, but like they need some major dollars behind them to make a mark for themselves. Yeah, all that being said, thankfully we're in this position of we do work in core skateboarding. We build ramps for Thrasher Deathmatch and we produce the Hell Bomb and we do these things that are cool and core and
Vision was huge and now they're gone. Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time,
you never get complacent.
I mean, the
Rail
majority
style.
of our
biggest YouTube channel gets 2K views.
Ramps that
Hell
we
yeah.
sell are going to beginners. Like 90% of our clientele is beginners, and I'm not like ashamed of that by any means. I'm happy that I can
Absolutely.
supply something to like shape a young skateboarder's perception of skating.
Getting kids into skating is never anything to ever be ashamed of.
Totally, but
Yeah.
we're in this really unique position where, you know, most companies that cater to...
Guys, I actually forgot to tell you that I reacted to that dude from Donut. I reacted to this guy talking about Nike and the skate industry. this guy, and I met him, and I met the other guy that quit Donut as well. And it was the other guy. I said, does this guy skate? And he goes, no, me and the editor, like not this guy, the other guy, Jesse. He goes, me and the other guy, the editor, are the skaters, and we kind of like provided information. And I said, do you still skate, or what's the deal? And he said, he goes, look, I've got cruiser wheels on a normal board. That's my like relationship with skating right now. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, that's sick. And then we followed each other on Instagram. So maybe I'll do something with these guys. Maybe I'll try to get them to go skate. But yeah, anyway, sorry to derail.
Beginners, like remember Termite skateboard?
They have a vibe.
You know, there's this cheeseball vibe of like, oh, you're a kid brand.
Obviously, like, you can argue that I'm biased because I'm a part of Keen Ramps. I don't think you have that vibe of like...
No, I don't think we do either, but like I said, we can ride the line of working with anybody and everybody, because at the end of the day, our product is ramps.
I would say that's grassroots. If you're marketing to people to try to get them into skating, like, that is core.
Okay.
You know,
don't tell Thrasher that.
You don't have to do it in a way that's
they do not agree.
Corny by the tastemaker.
Thrasher hates new skaters, low key.
I feel like you get the tastemaker approval.
At the end of the day, I want as many people skateboarding as possible, and I want to do as much cool shit in skateboarding as possible.
Yeah.
So I've just always said yes to everything, and I'm always trying to innovate and like reinvent the wheel and pivot here and there. Like, we have had some downturns over the years. I had a time when like the business didn't turn a profit for 7 or 8 months. I started getting scared, you know? I was like, oh shit. Like,
were able to pay your bills though?
Yeah, I mean, I had some reserves and I had some other stuff set aside from like other endeavors, real estate, Airbnbs, whatever. Like, okay. I always...
Yeah, well, see, the thing with skate industries, I feel like there's two industries. There's the core appreciating the core. But that's where like 0% of the money comes from. The money comes from beginners trying to penetrate this new endeavor that the core is like sealed off, and then the beginner come in. And that's kind of what Braille was and other things like that are. And this is what they're saying about Keen Ramps too, is that's like the bridge of like, hey, welcome into skating. We'll get you started. Then you can go over into the core. Where it's like, I feel like everyone's been too negative of like, oh, you're a new skater, you're a poser, blah, 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 blah. Like such a negative attitude. And it's like the barrier to entry is so high because you're literally just getting like shit on at every turn. That's kind of like why Braille was so successful, I feel like.
So there's a safety net to like keep everything normal here and not scare any of my employees. And I tried to, you know, keep that a secret.
I'm thinking of buying my first skateboard. Any tips for supporting good brands? That's a good question. I guess what I would say is just go to your local skate shop and then like talk with them and like look at all the brands that they have, or like you could even try to buy like a local board from the shop or something. But I don't know. What brands do I necessarily want to support? I honestly don't even know. I don't even know what I would say who to support. That's a good question.
I had to reassess where I was
Just don't go to Walmart, do not do that. Go to a real skate shop.
Talk to like the guy who does our digital ads. Like, all right, should we do more lo-fi? Should we do more on YouTube? Should we do more here? You know, should we come out with some new obstacles? Like, okay, sometimes when like we're in a weird down slumpy time, I'll just go through my phone and my text messages and I'll just message anybody and everybody who's a player in the industry. I'll be like, hey, Joey Monster, you got anything coming up? Go skateboarding days right around the corner.
You're like cold calling.
Yeah, 100%. Or just anybody who's a team manager, brand manager, in a marketing capacity, a photographer, a videographer.
I'm pretty sure Braille and Keen Ramps had a collab ramp. Maybe I can still buy it.
It's not always to like make money. Sometimes I'll just do, you do favors, and it's like that whole giving tree concept.
That's a part of the game too, though.
It always comes back around. I have done so much free stuff. And I'm not complaining about it, but a lot of the stuff that I've done for free over the years has turned into something very fruitful later on. Just staying motivated in those down slumps is really important.
Rails.
Lately, we haven't been in a bad place.
Damn!
I would say, our sales have been pretty steady over 2024. And thankfully, we've had a lot of event work. And without those, honestly, it would be hard to be a fruitful business and a profitable business with just the flat pack DTC stuff. So we do have to stay nimble, and I think that's a good thing. I guess that's advice for anybody in any capacity, is like, whatever you're doing, make sure you're you're not like pigeonholed into doing one thing.
Yeah, I think it's
like,
gone.
Find a way to think outside the box, reinvent yourself, come up with new marketing initiatives, like collaborate with people. Like there's always a way to get in front of new
Damn,
eyeballs.
post
I talk
deleted.
about this with TJ, who's my partner on the Desert Skate Ranch, is just not accepting failure, never taking no for an answer. I mean, thankfully, growing up skateboarding, like we got a really great lesson in that, where I'm just like failure is not an option. Like I've worked
Haley
in a lot
Isaac
of like
painted over it. That's
industry
funny.
capacities
Does she
with marketing
skate anymore?
agencies, and a lot of times I'll get that feedback that like it's so great working with skateboarders. You guys just like do things fast.
Yeah, I think Jason
Just,
Park
like,
still has it.
hustle. Everything's looking good, feeling good. I also just kind of like can't wait for Christmas to be over.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
Feel that.
January and February are always historically our worst months, rightfully so. You know, everybody has spending fatigue, brands aren't doing events, things like that. But it's
Right.
also a nice time that I try to spend like coming up with new concepts for the year. I'll usually like, I'll map out like a marketing plan.
There it
Like when
was.
do I want to introduce new obstacles? What obstacles do we already have that need some like rethinking or need new instructions, or let's find ways to make things like more productive or more intuitive, or
For
you know,
sure.
that's the time where I get to like go back to the drawing board and make the brand better.
Yeah, it's almost like a necessary evil because it forces you to
Yeah.
like sit down and do the things that maybe you don't have time to do right now because it's so busy.
Totally. So
Yeah.
it's like it's a stressful time, the beginning of the year, but it's also it's a nice and necessary time to like regroup.
How do you feel about the current state of skating with, you know, some people claiming that it's on a downturn, others complaining that, or others arguing that that's bullshit? As an insider and as a business owner and operator in skating, you see real numbers. So you see how many people are buying an obstacle.
This is honestly, this is a really good person to ask if you think the skate industry is up or down, because in terms of like California skating, I think there's like two main ramp suppliers that make these kind of ramps. It's like him and OC ramps, King ramps and OC ramps. So like asking them is a pretty good indicator of like the state of things. I'm kind of interested to see what he says.
Product versus maybe when they were years ago when it was like at a different peak.
Okay, there's a couple answers to that. So one, COVID really screwed things up, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of brands like doubled, tripled down. They're like, oh, I can't get enough wood and it's flying off the shelves and everybody's skateboarding. So people bought so much stuff and so many extra boards were made. And then you have a lot of these companies that are sitting on all that old stuff, and then people had to take a big loss on a lot of that old dying product. So then that's now trickled over into, you had a lot of brands that like ramped up for that level of demand, maybe hired more people, maybe got bigger facilities, made some growth moves that they shouldn't have. Also coupled with that, it's like I touched on it earlier, just how skateboarding, it rides these waves of popularity and certain brands will have their moments. And so like if you're a hard goods brand or like a smaller, you know, skater owned footwear brand,
My buddy is a
it's gonna be
board
really hard to stay
MFG.
relevant,
What does that mean?
especially like up against like the big dogs, especially in footwear. I'm hearing a lot of like,
Yeah, I heard that about cycling and mountain biking, and I heard that about scooter riding too. Surely more advanced riders and rich dads buying their products. I mean, rich dad doesn't necessarily mean advanced rider.
layoffs and downsizing and outsourcing, things of that nature. And that's a super bummer and scary from all fronts. I think what happens a lot of times, you know, you have these smaller skater-owned
Manufacturer.
brands and they build up and they have success and they might get acquired and then they switch hands and different private equity owns them. And then it's like,
There's mismanagement of like funds and employees.
and then you get to the point where like there's not really like a pulse behind the brand. Yeah, I think it's just really important for somebody to make sure that there's like a strong driving force and some individuals that care enough to not let it die. Like I mentioned, the beginning of the year is always tough, super slow. I almost need less people. Maybe I only need like 3 people realistically.
Right.
But then in the summer months when we're doing all these jobs and rentals and events and we're getting a lot of orders because all the snow melted back east and everybody's outside skating, it's summer break. Maybe those times I can need like 9 people.
Right. Right.
So I kind of like.
You found this in between spot.
I have this kind of in between.
Corey has
like,
my dream job.
Like 4 or 5 guys.
Leahy, get out there and do it. Didn't you listen to what Cole said?
When I don't have enough work.
We were watching Cole Wilson before this. He gave the motivational speech. He said, if you got a dream, follow your dream. Don't let the companies hold you back. You go for it yourself. The haters are always going to be there. You want to build a ramp? Do it. He's got your dream job. Go be his rival now.
Yeah.
And
but do what you think is best for your life.
Of the company.
Yeah.
But it's like on another side of
I've built a lot of ramps. It takes a lot of money to get started. Hit up the Chinese investor. Hit up the big investors. No, don't do that. I don't know. I don't know. Hey, can you check out my new web game? Probably not. First time chatter, to be honest.
In a position to where when
Tell me which direction a kickflip rotates for a regular skater, and then I'll check it out.
But it is a headache sometimes, like not being. It would be nice to be like, hey, go take a break for 4 months.
Yeah, right.
They're gonna go get another job.
Yeah.
If you're somebody who has ordered from us and asked a question, or maybe hasn't heard from us in a while, please bear with us. We'll return your phone call or your email as soon as possible. I feel like Cameron's doing a really good job at keeping up with the communication. So yeah, hopefully nobody's watching this and like, hey, stop talking to the camera on YouTube and go do some real work.
Tell me where my order is.
I feel like we're doing, knock on wood, I feel like we're doing a pretty good job this holiday season. All right, so Dale was kind of poking fun at the fact that there's 0 skating in this. So for those of you that were mad that there was no skateboarding.
No, 0 skating is good.
Do some skateboarding real quick.
No, look, this is the way of the world, okay? Sometimes you just gotta see things for what they are, right? If the Keen Ramps video was titled "Session on my lunch break, new ramp," I would never have clicked it. Like, sadly, that's just the truth. You title it "Harsh Reality of Owning a Skate Brand," hell yeah, I'll listen to what you gotta say. So I don't think you need to trip that there's no skating in it. Let's go.
Oh, I usually rap better than that. This isn't my normal board though.